Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. Hi, it's Emmy. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be making BOOZA. Many of you have requested this, and this is for a beautiful Arabic ice cream. Now, what's interesting about BOOZA is the fact that it stretches. You can pull it, you can stretch it, so it has this really kind of taffy-like consistency, yet it's a familiar frozen treat like ice cream, but with this delightful texture. So the first time I learned about BOOZA was from a Science Friday. I'll put a link down below to the video that I watched. Friday is a radio show that's hosted every Friday, of course, by Ira Flato. So in that video, Kent Kirschenbaum gives a lecture about BOOZA, and he's part of a group called the Experimental Cuisine Collective. Again, I'll put links down below, where they talk about the science behind food. So BOOZA hails from the Middle East and it is an ancient form of ice cream. But what makes it unique is this stretchy consistency. And the ingredients that make it do this wonderful plasticity are twofold. Number one being salep. Now salep is this powder that I've got here. I ordered this online. So this comes from the ground up tubers of an orchid that grows in the region. Now these tubers often grow in pairs and they're also called fox testicles. So this is sometimes called fox testicle ice cream. I love it already and I haven't even made it. I haven't even tasted it. Absolutely marvelous. Now, so the science behind salep and its ability to lend this stretchy texture to BOOZA is the fact that it is a polysaccharide or a long chain sugar, more specifically glucomannan. So it's a long chain of glucose molecules. These long chain polysaccharides absorb a lot of water, which makes a lot of sense if you are a plant growing in an arid region. Love that, love that. Here it is, I've got 50 grams. The second key ingredient is this, and this is mastic, and it is the resin from a particular plant that's related to cashews. It smells resinous, piney, a bit like pine pitch, but it's got these beautiful crystals. It actually reminds me a lot of the pine resin that I used in my pine resin potatoes. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link down below. But of course, these crystals are much smaller. So in the Science Friday video, they also say that the mastic also contributes to the stretchy texture of the BOOZA. Today's recipe is going to be adapted from the one that I saw in the Science Friday video, but I did watch some others, including the Thread Banger video. Shout out to Corinne and Rob. I'll put a link down below to their video as well. They use cream in theirs, and I'm just going to use just milk. I'm going to stay simple and traditional. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is grind up some of this mastic. So I'm not going to use very much. It is very hard, as you can hear. So the recipe calls for a cup of sugar. I'm going to add some of that sugar to here, and that's going to help us break up the resin. I'm using a Japanese sodabashi here to grind up my mastic. I do have a mortar and pestle that would work equally well, if not better, but I use it to make guacamole all the time, and I really don't want my ice cream tasting like garlic. Okay, back to grinding. I'm gonna sift out all those big chunks. All right, in a large pot, I'm going to heat up 5 cups of milk. And while that's heating up, set this aside. I'm going to prepare my salep. So I've got a bowl here with some water. It smells like calamine lotion and cedar. Like when you open drawers that have a little cedar sachet. Yeah, that's what it smells like. Okay, 3 tablespoons. 1. Ooh, it's very fine powder. 2, 3. So besides adding a really great stretchy texture to the ice cream, the salep and the mastic also help the ice cream from melting as quickly, which makes a lot of sense in an area that gets so hot. So already the glucomannan is doing its thing and absorbing the water. Look at that. It's already getting thick. I love science, I love it. Okay, look at that. So what we're doing here is just the same thing you would do if you were thickening a sauce with cornstarch. You make a slurry of cornstarch with water and you add that to your sauce rather than just adding the cornstarch directly, so you avoid lumps. I'm going to whisk in 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to add a little bit of my hot milk to my salep. And again, to kind of soften things a bit. So I do notice a few lumps and I don't want that. I'm going to push this through sieve here, just to make sure I don't have any lumps. Now we're gonna whisk the solids in, and we are lump free. Now we're gonna add our mastic and our sugar that we ground up. So now we're gonna put this back on the heat and warm this up again. So traditionally, BOOZA is made in these really deep frozen cylinders that are kind of below counter, so it uses electricity to keep the cylinder very, very cold. Then this mixture, which has been cooled, is poured into the cylinder. Then the ice cream maker takes this mixture and splashes it on the sides of the wall, starting to cool it down. And then it's scraped down, and then it starts to thicken, and then it's pounded with a wooden mallet. Mallets are much larger than this. This is a very small one that I found, but it's going to be perfect for the scale of BOOZA that I'm making. So I actually found a kind of straight walled metal container. My idea was to place this into a bowl with ice and ice cream salt, and to kind of create my own kind of frozen cylinder. But the scale of this is going to be way too small. I'm not going to be able to splash the ice cream on the sides. So I think I might do is just head over to the thrift store. This is another experiment that I've been wanting to try forever, and pick up an ice cream maker and see if I can make ice cream with a thrift store ice cream maker. I mean, I'll still do the kneading and the pounding with my mallet, but the initial kind of kneading and freezing part will be done by the machine. And that was recommended in a lot of blog recipes that I read about DIY homemade BOOZA. So I think I'm gonna do that after I get this going. So once this is thickened up, I'm gonna kill the heat, and we gotta let this cool completely before we try churning it. And while this is cooling down, let's head over to the thrift store and see if I can find myself a tool to make this whole BOOZA making a little bit easier. Not seeing an ice cream maker. Looks like I'm going to another thrift store. Lovely. Another Savers. Trying again. I'm missing a key component. That looks good. Very good. Nice price. Alright, here we go. Oh yeah. So extra bonus, my $12.99 appliance was an orange tag. Got it for half price. $6.50. Alrighty, my beautiful lovelies, so my BOOZA base has been cooling in the refrigerator, and in that time I went to the thrift store and found this lovely machine. So like all the things that I find secondhand, I like to give everything a good thorough cleaning. I use lots of hot soapy water, but this is in such great condition it really didn't need much work at all. So if you missed the video where I baked bread using a vintage bread maker, I'll put the link down below. That machine was about 30 years old and required a lot more deep cleaning, which is actually a lot of fun, but it is also really fun and enjoyable to find something that is in really great shape and doesn't really need much work. So here we are, and so I consider this type of ice cream maker relatively modern. It has a canister that has some refrigerant in it, and you have to put it in the freezer and freeze it solid. So at least overnight, a couple days is even better, because you want your canister to be very, very cold. That's what's going to freeze up our ice cream. So back in the old days, actually not that long ago, there were ice cream makers, and instead of having a canister, you would use ice, and you would use rock ice cream salt, which would lower the temperature even more, and that would cool down a metal canister in which you put your ice cream base in. And then you hand cranked it, which was a lot of fun to do in the summer times on hot days, but it was pretty messy. You got icy salt water dripping everywhere, but if you're doing it outside, it's just a lot of fun. And then of course you get to hand crank it. When you got a bunch of kids, that's fun because everyone can take a turn. But with a maker like this, you just plug it in and you turn it on, and it turns and cranks it by itself, and you've got your frozen canister to freeze the ice cream. My plan of attack is to do the initial kind of churning and freezing using the ice cream maker, and then I will use my wooden mallet to give it some good pounds and use a scraper to kind of scrape down the sides, and hopefully we'll get a beautiful stretchy ice cream. Alrighty, let's do this. Okay, so here is my frozen little canister. I'm going to place that right on top of there. Make sure it's lined up. Here's my BOOZA base that's been chilling in the refrigerator. We want to make sure this is nice and cold. That will facilitate the hardening of the ice cream. Ooh, that smells good. Look at that texture, isn't that wonderful? So this is a relatively small capacity, so I'm going to put about half of this in there. Look at that, that's beautiful. Oh yes. this is very thick and I don't want to overtax the motor of the machine, so I'm just going to fill it halfway. So then I'm going to put this back in here like that. Then this goes on top of this like this. And then I'm just going to turn it on. Here we go. This has been churning for about 10 minutes now, and my friends, I have ice cream. So I've made a homemade ice cream before, and I have to say this churned up very quickly. I don't want to give all the credit to the ice cream maker because I feel like the canister and all that stuff is generally pretty much the same. I imagine the major difference between the quality of ice cream makers has to do with more of the motor rather than the canister. So I suspect the addition of the salep and the mastic that thicken the actual ice cream base helps to speed up this kind of actual hardening of the ice cream because your base is already thickened and it's already stretchy. So in the mail the other day, I received this from Diana. Diana, thank you so much. This is called a Danish dough whisk, and it's used to mix batters, but more specifically, really thick doughs. I'm really excited to use this because I've never used it before, but it's supposed to speed things up when it comes to mixing doughs. But it also came with this lovely little dough scraper. So I'm going to be using that to scrape down the sides and the walls of my canister without marring it. So just going to scrape that. Oh, it works beautifully. Thank you, Diana. So this is what they also do traditionally as well. They scrape down the sides and mix that in because of course the side walls are going to freeze faster. And then here we go. Look at that. Can you see the stretchies? Okay, so I'm gonna pound this. Look at that. So now that I've churned it and pounded it, I'm gonna place this in the freezer to allow it to set up a little bit more. And here it is. Alrighty, so we're gonna have to work quickly because it is pretty hot. I'm gonna grab a pair of gloves here. Nitrile gloves in purple. Here we go. Look at that. So the freezing process really stiffens this up, of course, because it is ice cream, and gives us that beautiful stretch. Alrighty, so here's the BOOZA, and look at that. Beautiful stuff. Manipulating and stretching it and stretching it. Look at that. So cool. And this is traditionally topped with just a little bit of pistachio nuts. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, the pistachios are so beautiful. They're beautifully green. Itadakimasu. Mmm. Mmm. Wow. That has a delightful texture to it. It's whipped and fluffy. So imagine like a soft serve, but super fluffy and airy, almost like marshmallow fluff. It's not as stretchy as I expected, or as I've seen in videos. Maybe I need to churn this longer to develop the kind of stretchy strands. But it has the most delightful, cool, fluffy, whipped texture. The flavor is very unique too. It definitely has a kind of piney, resinous flavor to it. There's this kind of almost citrusy lemoniness to it. But it smells and tastes very similar to calamine lotion. Not that I've ever ingested calamine lotion, I'm not suggesting that, but as a kid and as one that's quite allergic to mosquitoes, I always had calamine lotion on me in the summertime, so I'm very familiar with that smell. But this is delicious. I particularly love the pistachio nuts on there. It adds a little bit of saltiness, a little bit of crunch, which is a great contrast to that really fluffy, airy texture. That has just the slightest little bit of pull to it. This actually is a little bit reminiscent of cardamom to me, that kind of lemony, slightly citrusy spice flavor, but this is a little bit more resinous, but delicious. This was made with 100% milk. The salep and the mastic changed the texture of this, so it feels really smooth and rich and creamy, but it doesn't have any additional fat in it. It's absolutely delicious. Alrighty, so there you have it, homemade BOOZA stretchy ice cream made in a thrifted ice cream maker. Like always, I'll put the original recipes, adaptations, and references that I mentioned in this video down in the description down below. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything that you'd like me to test out or try. Be sure to grab yourself an Eat the Ducky Moss t-shirt or tank top. They're running for only a limited time only, so grab one quickly. Alrighty, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you guys learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Like this video, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye! Ms. Machios are the best.